You've been age restricted.
Somewhere in your hour-long video, upload a new version of the video and see if this one doesn't get auto-flagged.
Mike Wazowski, Charles Bukowski. It's all connected. I did kill the missus, I did leave a witness, I didn't do my taxes, and I haven't done my dishes. I wanna go to McDonald's, buy a burger, ostentatiously put it directly in the garbage in front of them, go back, buy another burger, and just keep doing that until they tell me to leave. You don't need a high IQ to understand Rick and Morty, but you do need to be a little annoying to actively dislike it.
This is just sloppy craftsmanship.
It's a really good show. And compact nonetheless, 20 minutes of unhinged curiosity, chasing its own tail until it creates a Mobius strip of endlessly rewatchable, intricately stupid science fiction. There are two creative forces that had to collaborate in order for Rick and Morty to spring forth into its punk rock chokehold on popular culture.
I'm Justin Roiland. And I'm Dan Harmon. And together we created Rick and Morty!
Part 1, Intuition and Analysis. Justin Roiland is a brutally bipolar creature that thrives off of innovation devoid of judgment.
I hear a bunch of screaming demons.
Can you try to read this one on script?
Man, fuck you.
Perfectionism is not something to aspire to, it's a disease that kills creativity. When you're afraid of starting something for fear of its potential theoretical inadequacy, the concern isn't for bad art existing, the concern is what you're making means about you. You want to be the person that's good at art. You want to be a genius, because you're so fucking special. You're like a firstborn four-leaf unicorn next in line for the throne. Essentially, you care more about your pride than you care about the art. That's not gonna prime a productive creative process. That's going to prime you bending over backwards to satiate your insecurities, which you will never succeed in doing. Don't try to satisfy your insecurities by trying to be perfect. That's like trying to cure an infection by crying. Don't negotiate with terrorists. Your ego is a terrorist. When your fear of creating something stupid or bad prevents you from creating at all, you are not serving anyone but your own feelings. Because everyone makes stupid and bad things. That's how you make good things.
Everybody who's blocked, they are committing the cardinal sin of assuming their job is to make something good. You end up making good stuff by making a bunch of bad stuff.
That's literally the creative process. You get out all of your ideas, kill your darlings, mangle your best ideas beyond recognition, and then drop it even though you still think it sucks.
Imagine the feeling of it coming out of you, it being distracting, you know, where you're going like, oh, that feels weird. What we want is the handkerchiefs. What you want is to demystify the process of pulling and getting it out.
Prove you can actually execute an idea to its completion instead of telling your friends about how cool it's going to be.
Prove that you're a bad writer. You're trying to prove that you're a good writer. That's what's blocking you. You have to stop thinking about the thing that you're eventually going to be able to do, and you have to start thinking about the thing that you're terrified you will do, because that will go by very quickly.
Then you can see you're not special. You're not a genius. You're like everyone else. You have good ideas, you have bad ideas. And until you start letting your ideas flow, you're protecting yourself from your bad ideas while depriving the universe of your good ideas. This shit is lukewarm. The only difference between someone who does something and someone who doesn't do that thing is whether or not they do it. So if you want to be an artist, be an artist. If you really want to kneel at the altar, start doing it as one of many inadequate worshipers of a god that will never thank you.
It's like cheating. It's like putting shit in your gas tank. It's like putting exhaust in your gas tank. It's like the thing your car makes that you can't use. You can fuel your car on it.
Ira Glass explains perfectionism anxiety as a matter of beginner's skill in conflict with good taste.
For the first couple years that you're making stuff, what you're making isn't so good, okay? It's not that great. It's trying to be good. It has ambition to be good, but it's not quite that good. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, your taste is still killer. And your taste is good enough that you can tell that what you're making is kind of a disappointment to you.
You get into creating art because you have good taste and appreciate great art. But because you have good taste, you will be painfully aware that you are not outputting great art when you start to make it. Immediately, it's crushing how beneath your taste you're operating. But the only thing that will carry you towards creating what you love is suffering through your inadequacy. So instead of whining about how bad you are compared to the things you adore, create out of love for the process and medium. You're in service of the eternal. You don't have to feel like a genius. You are simply the conduit through which genius passes. Be honored for every scrap of it. Immutable resistance to perfectionism is the magic of Justin Roiland's process.
Oh, what the hell are these crazy Googas? Right? That's what we're gonna call them?
Yes, the idea on the table might be Mr. Poopy Butthole.
Hello there, I'm Poopy Butthole Pewerson.
On Rick and Morty, I designed a Mr. Poopy Butthole.
Ooh-wee! Whatever you want, Rick, we're here to help.
Thanks, Mr. Poopy Butthole.
I remember Justin drew him on the whiteboard, said, no, he'll look like this, and then we were just cracking up and going, yes, okay, got it. And but then I remember Lazo from Adult Swim asking on the speakerphone after reading the script, is like, so what is Mr. Poopy Butthole going to look like?
Well, yeah, because you read that name and you're like, well, that's not going to be like, you know.
He's just going to look kind of special.
I personally wouldn't willingly enjoy having my name associated with that in perpetuity, but that day Roiland developed Mr. Poopy Butthole, he did succeed in developing an original character while I sat alone drinking, worrying about my legacy. He did something, I didn't do anything. And that's the oil that the Roiland mechanism runs on. Don't think, create. Turn off brain, start. Dan Harmon has been unlearning the disease of perfectionism for a long time now. Today, he would readily regurgitate the Justin Roiland philosophy of creating without judgment or ego, allowing the process to enact itself and letting go of the precious profundity of your ideas. But that doesn't mean that's what comes naturally to him. Clearly, what Harmon is really good at is thinking too much about the particulars to the point of it not even being useful anymore.
Dan, the way your mind works, you subdivide. Your brain cleaves. You take one thing, you cut it into two. You go, because it's A and B. You take B and you go, because it's B with 1 and 2 in italics underneath. You build this kind of increasingly, what's the mathematical theorem where you just keep cutting the distance between here and the wall and you never get to the wall?
So Roiland's tendency is to be uncontrollable and chaotic and impulsive to the point of non-productivity and lazy vulgarity. And Dan's illness is taking things way too seriously to the point of non-productive self-indulgence. In this context, the two neuroses act like saps to each other's specializations.
He just retains his innocence about stuff. Like, he just likes what he likes, and he just has these thoughts that are crazy and childish, and treating that as if it's as important as a nuclear power plant is like my favorite activity.
Their process in the writer's room at the onset was Justin Roiland spewing chaotic nonsense, and then Harmon leading the room and reverse engineering all the stupid ideas and goofy voices into a deeply fleshed out manifestation.
Get to his brain, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so at that point, what is Rick's real plan?
Taking structure extremely seriously, as Harmon is damned to always do, while retaining the looseness and freedom of Roiland's flummoxing mind.
Justin comes in and goes like, I'm Mr. Jiggle Nuts! And we all start laughing, and then we sit around and go, like, okay, what would Mr. Jiggle Nuts do?
Roiland and Harmon met in 2004 through the Los Angeles media collective called Channel 101, which was a grassroots monthly film festival created by Harmon and his longtime collaborator Rob Schraub. The idea was to give the power of a studio executive to fans and creators of weird shit.
Anybody in the world that's listening to us right now is allowed to submit a 5-minute first episode of any kind of television show that they want.
Our group is The Lonely Island, but we got involved with Channel 101, which is this thing created by our friends Dan Harmon and Rob Schraub. Monthly, people can make homemade, like, pilots of TV shows, 5 minutes or less, and then the audience votes, and the top 5 are prime time, and you keep making more. Which is pretty sweet for people that, you know, need an outlet.
Justin Roiland would contribute monthly to this.
Justin figured out a way to make cartoons super fast, within a month. We were like this cartoon making factory.
Like, Justin would always submit these cartoons that the panel would love, but the audience would hate.
His greatest success at Channel 101 was House of Cosby's, an animated sitcom about a superfan that obtains one of Bill Cosby's hairs, spends 10 years constructing a cloning machine, then clones Cosby's so that he can fulfill his fantasy of populating his home with Cosby's. The clones do deteriorate in quality as he proceeds, but every 10th Cosby does have superpowers. See, this would be a good example of Roiland having an idea and never stopping to wonder, is this a good idea? Should I make this?
He was a Cosby fan at heart, it's clear. He searched and found a Cosby hair. He spent 10 long years and built a cloning machine. I like to explore the house, you know. I will go around the house. I'm Curiosity Cosby, you see.
With no disrespect to Dr. Cosby, I really hope he sees it and loves it and adopts me as his new son.
Bill Cosby didn't see the humor and asked Channel 101 and Roiland to please stop using his likeness in this bizarre and offensive manner, you know, to protect his public image and dignity. So Justin had to stop, but the momentum carried him into studio interest.
The House of Cosby.
He went on to maintain a career of pitching shows to Fox, taking a lot of studio notes and earning pitch fees but never getting anything off the ground. Unsurprisingly, during Roiland's tenure at Fox, he was often creatively frustrated. He reacted by therapeutically making something fucked up no one asked for. Sometimes I will eat a single piece of deli meat just to get my stomach to stop screaming at me, I don't have an eating disorder, I just wasn't meant to have a body. The real animated adventures of Doc and Marty is the amoeba that divided and evolved into the multicellular being we know today. In crude and arbitrary parody of Back to the Future, Roiland illustrates and voices Doc Smith convincing Marty McDonald's to suck his balls repeatedly, which always inexplicably results in scientific breakthrough. Doesn't exactly follow Campbell's monomyth.
I wanted to just do those voices and kind of screw around, but I also wanted to make something really shocking and disgusting on purpose. The audience definitely freaked the f out.
You can immediately feel tone-wise how this coercive, abusive, and ridiculous relationship resembles the Rick and Morty that we know.
You think that if you saw some guy licking some balls, you'd just walk by happily? I don't think so, Marty. That ain't how it works here, Marty. That way you can, you know, you're gonna help me with my science, Morty, all the time. Jeez, Rick.
These were two voices that Justin Roiland had been messing around with for some time. There was something about the stammering rhythm between a rough, assertive authority figure and a shrill, apologetic child that intuitively stuck.
I had fallen in love throughout the course of making that cartoon with the voices of the two characters.
You know what she said to me? Oh, Reggie, what'd she say, man? Tell her what she said. Mitchell, I'm trying to do science in the basement.
So when Adult Swim offered Dan Harmon a carte blanche opportunity to run an animated sitcom on their network, he phoned up the fresh animation idea machine, and Justin Roiland suggested his comfortable, familiar two-voiced improv tick.
He knew the characters because I had been doing them in Channel 101 for years. He was like, yes, okay, I love those characters.
They fleshed out a reliable sitcom setup to house these two voices, a la Harmon's formulaic love of television.
If there's one thing we've learned from real television, it's that ideas are not important. The popular shows are not about anything at all. They're about people hanging out. They just have to be well executed.
And then they started, and they didn't stop, and they might not ever. From the very first episode, the tone is unmistakable. A fusion of classic sitcom A and B narrative storytelling, science fiction fuckery, and this bizarre stuttery line delivery between the main characters, making it strangely loose and fugue-like. There are plenty of well-written jokes, but a good 30% of the comedy is to be found within the wasted time of these two voices improvising clumsily. As the series progresses, there is less of an emphasis on Justin Roiland blathering and burping in circles, but it is always a threat looming on the horizon. The first anthology episode in the series, Interdimensional Cable TV, is based almost entirely on Justin Roiland improvising esoteric alien dimension commercials and shows, and then the team animating those.
Seems like TV from other dimensions has a somewhat looser feel to it. Yeah, it's got an almost improvisational tone.
But even in that episode, the show can't help but insert a meaty story arc for the characters that incorporates the science fiction gimmick. This is because of the counterweight to the writhing, inexplicable birth of ideas into a cold, unforgiving void. The idea there is truth, there is a god, and the universe follows a structure. By the time Harmon was creating Rick and Morty, the divots of his infamous story circle were well trodden. At some point in Harmon's 20s, he became obsessed with Joseph Campbell, who was a philosopher and anthropologist that went hard in the goddamn paint. At first, a student of indigenous religions and myths, his research spiraled like a CJ the X video essay until he was linking every story ever told into one eternal search for meaning in a chaotic world.
Myths are stories of the search by men and women through the ages for meaning, for significance, to make life signify, to touch the eternal, to understand the mysterious, to find out who we are.
Myths are clues to the spiritual potentialities of the human life.
There are commonalities between our classic tales, spontaneously, organically recurring story beats that humanity feels a need to tell itself. We recognize being called away from order into chaos, fighting through obstacles, sacrificing pieces of yourself in order to gain something, changing, learning something through the process that you will now take with you into the future. This is coming of age, this is discovering meaning, and if you examine your own life, you can discover patterns of this story within yourself. Because stories are the very compact way that the human mind has evolved to store complex information, and turning our lives into a sensical, satisfying story is what our sentience yearns to do. Campbell spends his time spinning together different fables and philosophies from different cultures, illustrating how we are deeply, inherently spiritual creatures in need of meaning and purpose, and throughout history have gravitated towards a reliable structure of that meaning via myths. The reality of our need to grow and let go of our own egos, take responsibility for the world we live in, and become adults, incorporating chaos into our identities. Through various different lores, we've constantly reasserted a cycle of life, death, and rebirth, as well as a God that is inside of every human being, constantly available to connect to, making us part of one long story. So Dan Harmon looked at all this and thought, I think this can help me write Monster House. Literally, that's actually what happened. He describes it as an act of laziness. Apparently, it is possible to water down God into a well-constructed episode of television.
My work is simply a kind of hacky attempt to distill his very cultural, spiritual work down to almost a kind of very Aspergery matter of math.
You need to go search for something, find it, take it, and then return. Changed.
Your creativity is the voice of the eternal passing through a U-shaped hole. It's always the same. You are just adding another brick to the tower to heaven. Part 2, sincerity and irony. Irony is not something you have unless you had sincerity and it was devastated by reality. There is an empowering component to irony. It can allow us to approach the otherwise unapproachable.
In some respects, humor and irony are political responses, and they're redemptive.
But it can also be a cowardly opting out of responsibility for your unbearable reality.
And in another sense, particularly in popular entertainment, irony and a kind of dark humor can become a way of, it's pretending to protest when it really isn't.
At this particular moment in culture, we are in a long-term committed, moved in together, fused bank accounts relationship with irony. In the past, people ascribed generally to organized religion as the dominant way to engage with the unknowable nature of reality, which, you know, didn't historically go in a non-violent way. Saying Jesus fucking Christ isn't taking the Lord's name in vain. Arrogantly oppressing the downtrodden and forcing your personal values upon them in the name of God is taking the Lord's name in vain. But organizing societal consciousness around religion does actually provide a shared sense of meaning and morality. The farther we've moved from a communal responsibility to a higher power, the deeper we have drenched ourselves in ironic detachment from all meaning. If you don't believe me, look around you. Look at the internet, the pocket dimensions, and ever-shifting sands of increasingly niche cultures. Everyone gives a fuck about everything. No one gives a fuck about anything. Society is fractured into so many different value systems. The only universal law is that someone will think you're evil for whatever it is you do believe. So why not start just telling ironic jokes in the face of overwhelming cosmic horror? The alternative is subscribe to whatever the dominant value system may be and discover the eternal emptiness within its promise. Why the fuck would you care about something? Why bother having empathy for people that are always gonna try to fuck you? Why try when you're an H2O molecule in a wave that's crashing whether or not you feel like hitting the shore? The very least we can do in a cold, unforgiving universe is wink at each other at how fucked we all are because God forgot about us, so we spend our whole lives fighting to make the world better, then we don't succeed, then we die, and eventually the sun explodes, so why do we try at all? So dive into the uncomfortable areas, lean into the terrifying expanse, and tell a motherfucking joke. No one can hear you scream in space, but no one can hear you laugh either, and laughing's more fun.
Dark humor is kind of like a sad song. It takes your worst feelings, traumas, and anxieties and twists them into a source of pleasure.
We're ironic about the darkness to relieve our pain from the darkness. But just because sincerity is more painful doesn't make it less valuable. Some things are hard, but worth it. Including, on occasion, not making a joke and taking something seriously. Dialectics are when, in order to understand the truth, you attempt the paradoxical feat of accepting two opposing extreme contradictory realities. This is reality. It's not black and white. Existence is biracial and non-binary, like me. When there's a contradiction between the reality we're clinging to and another, there might be a shard of eternal knowledge in the opposing reality that we can't have access to unless we adopt a beginner's mind, presuming at least for a moment that everything we think is right is wrong and we still have much to learn. As a problematic addictive personality BPD icon with a trail of destruction behind them, dialectics are the only reason I'm still alive. Dialectical behavioral therapy is a series of bicep curls of accepting that two extremely contradictory realities can be simultaneously true. Maybe I'm a remorseful wraith that can never change their past. And maybe I'm a human being trying their best, working off the information that they're privy to and improving every day with just as much right to imperfection as anyone so long as I do something about it. Maybe I'm gonna die and nothing matters, and maybe I'm alive right now, in this moment, which is holy and beautiful. Harmon's commitment to the structure of story and meaning holds sincerity in very high esteem. The monomyth says there is meaning to life, that myths and stories tell us what it is, that there's a reality higher than our own personal subjective experience and value system. So when cosmic horror and a psychopathic intuition towards chaos is channeled through the beats of humanity's eternal story, you get a sloshing fluid of contrasting irony and sincerity. A dialectic that generates endless great stories that laugh in the face of nothingness through the structure of meaning itself. Although the concepts are ironic, the humor is ironic, the characters are ironic, the universe is ironic, and a significant portion of their creative process is ironic, it is executed with sincerity. They allow the fun to flow, but never allow themselves to tell a story without some sort of codified meaning. This mostly manifests in one-punch-man-y fashion, with Rick being unchangeable in his godhood and chaos, while the characters around him have profound experiences contending with what they're exposed to. Morty first confronts his tiny mortality in the multiverse after Rick drags him from his original universe into a new one, and they bury their own dead bodies so that they can escape the apocalyptic damage they'd done to their previous universe. Summer discovers, via perspective into alternate dimensions, revelations that her birth was an accident and she ruined her parents' dreams.
Your father and I achieved our dreams. There's a chance you weren't even born. That came out wrong. That came out very wrong.
Morty talks Summer down from this cliff by explaining his previous reality.
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Come watch TV.
Jerry and Beth struggle with the very relatable issues of marriage and parenthood.
Oh, here we go. Right to the victim role.
Am I a victim, Beth? Or am I married to a mean, unfair monster that always hurts me?
But Rick never engages with their sincere battles. He clothes himself in irony, insisting to them again and again that their battles don't matter. Nothing means anything. The only thing to do is have fun.
Nobody gets it. Nothing you think matters matters. This isn't special. This is happening infinite times across infinite realities.
He takes it to the point of treating their lives like a TV show.
9 more seasons, Morty. You ruined the season 4 premiere.
You might think, but they are in a TV show. No, bitch! The characters are in a TV show to us, not to them. That cartoon house is their reality. It's only Rick who's making these meta jokes, treating their lives like a game, looking into a proverbial imagined camera, degrading the sincerity of their universe, considering himself above participation in his family's life.
That's the end of season 1. I don't give a fuck is my new catchphrase.
But he's broken inside. He's an unnecessarily cruel alcoholic.
You're the reason this species is a failure, and it makes me angry. You're drunk.
He's a horrible father, grandfather, and friend.
I always wondered who would win if we ever fought.
Then you were always a bad friend.
He's transformed this regular, flawed household into a horror show of cosmic horror, violence, and death.
They'll go back to their families, attend school regularly, play video games, date girls. Poor little Rickless bastards.
In season 2, episode 3, after Rick drags his ex into a bender, she cuts him off for being toxic.
I know how it goes with us. I lose who I am and become part of you.
After that, he shamefully sulks back to his home, lies to his family about not remembering her name like a fucking boy.
What happened with Unity?
Who? Oh, Unity.
Then he whimpers off to his garage and tries to kill himself. He first creates a creature that didn't ask to be born with some strange fluid, pets it as it cries, then kills it unceremoniously. Then he drinks the strange fluid, even though it isn't booze, because whatever fucks you up is fine. He sits down in solidarity with that crying blob created by a cruel god for no reason, and the only reason he doesn't die is because he's too drunk to stay awake. While he sits there in his filth, Jerry, the boring, stupid, sincere idiot he abhors so much for being so sincerely human, enjoys the weed whacker he's been trying to get throughout the episode. Not as interesting as the intergalactic debaucherous affair with an assimilated planet, but look who's committing suicide and who's enjoying the simple miracle of life. Rick also invents his own catchphrases just to further his sitcom persona in a hotbed of irony.
And that's the way the news goes. Grass tastes bad. AIDS!
One of his catchphrases was famously revealed in the finale of season 1 to be bird language for "I am in great pain, please help me."
Wubba-lubba-dub-dubs! Yeah! That's my new thing. You know what I'm talking about, Morty? Wubba-lubba-dub-dub! Morty. That's my catchphrase, remember? That's just Rick's stupid nonsense catchphrase.
It's not nonsense. In my people's tongue, it means, I am in great pain. Please help me.
As superficially, surface level, plot twisty, yeah, Rick is cool but sad deep down, this may seem, it's also a nod towards the fact that all of Rick's fourth wall breaking affectations are an expression of suffering and disconnection from the confines of his reality.
Someone once called irony the song of a bird that has come to love its cage. And even though it sings about not liking the cage, it really likes it in there.
The immediate magneticism of Rick and Morty is most of the time, for most people, an indulgent glee in identifying with Rick.
We all feel many times a day like we're the smartest person in the room and that everybody else doesn't get it. We also know that that's an ugly quality. That would be an ugly thing to say, even think and feel in your heart. But because Rick is like more powerful than 9 Doctor Who's, if he says none of this matters, it's like he's right. And so you get to indulge in the fantasy. What if I got to say it?
So when Rick breaks the fourth wall, it once again just feels like he's the smartest person in the room to such a ridiculous extent that he knows he's in a TV show when no one else does.
Wubba gobble up ups! Right? See you next week, everybody.
I don't get it.
But just like Wubba Lubba Dub Dub, every time he tries to frame his life as Rick and Morty adventures or sitcom exploits, it's just to shield himself from the boring work of relationships and being a good person. It's not proof he's the smartest man in the room, it's cowardice from a man afraid of sincerity. The show knows this, dipping its fingers into irony and sincerity both, flying as close to terror as irony allows, while tying themselves to the bungee cord of sincerity that never truly allows things to be without meaning. Part 3, Godhood and Mortality. In season 3, episode 1, Rick is affirmed explicitly by the show as what he has been implicitly this whole time, some kind of evil god.
Well, he's not a villain, Summer, but he shouldn't be your hero. He's more like a demon or
A super f***ed up god.
Yet, despite the fact that Rick functions with the limitless unknowable power of a god, he is not a capital G god. He is mortal, he is humbled before the unknowability of the universe, and his refusal to accept this results in constant unnecessary strife.
I think that Rick is very averse to having a normal spiritual connection with the unknown.
Season 3, as an individual entity, emanates the most thematic cohesion in the franchise out of all the other seasons. The whole thing is a follow-up to the most serialized and sincere episode to date, the finale of Season 2, The Wedding Squanchers. This sees Rick reluctantly opening up to the idea of attending his best friend's wedding. Concrete backstory and permanent twists involving recurring characters are revealed, as well as what appears to be authentic character development for Rick. He has a brief moment of sincerity towards his friends and family.
Bird person is my best friend. And if he loves Tammy, well, then I love Tammy too. To friendship, to love, and to my greatest adventure yet, opening myself up to others.
Until he is brutally punished for his sincerity, just like he always professes is inevitable.
Everyone here is under arrest for crimes against the Federation.
Tammy? Bird person! No!
His sincere expression of common vulnerability is immediately betrayed, and he snaps right back to his ironic detachment and casual cruelty, smugly feeling proven correct. It might even seem like the show agrees with him. Surely his heartbreaking universe and tragic circumstance does, but loving and losing is exactly what sincerity is. Being brave enough to love someone means allowing them the power to break your heart. The honest and meaningful reaction in this scenario would be to mourn, but he doesn't. He lashes out at his family and acts above it.
Oh, should I have been more open and trusting and loving like, oh, I don't know, my now dead best friend? You, Summer, and the government, and me for letting my guard down, which I will never do again.
Once again, Rick's presence in the family has ruined their lives, making them a target for the authoritarian Galactic Federation that Rick is a known rebel against, causing Earth to be colonized by bureaucratic Bolshevikian insects. That's right, I won't always refer to communism positively. Don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do!
He evacuates the family to a new planet, once more basking in the novelty of the whole bit, while the family genuinely mourns what they've lost. Jerry, the most boring and least respected member of the family, suggests rationally that Rick is a piece of shit that has annihilated their lives repeatedly, but the hereditary worship of intelligence, abhorrence for weakness, and fear for Rick's disapproval has the rest of the family completely whipped.
Okay, so let me get this straight. For the rest of your lives, no matter how much it hurts you, no matter how much it destroys our children's futures, we're gonna do whatever Rick wants, whenever he wants.
Yes! Rick overhears this and evidently has his second sincere moment of the episode. He turns himself in on the condition that the government pardons his family.
If we come back to Earth, can my family have a normal life?
We only want Sanchez, sir. Your family will be fine.
Nice. Thank you. I'm Jerry Smith, and I love sucking big, sweaty.
On a cliffhanger ending, he's locked away. The family is returned to a permanently transformed Earth under an alien regime, and it seems that Rick has finally accessed his remorse and limitations.
What are you in for?
Everything.
For 2 years, we are left wondering how things will proceed, forever changed. Then Season 3, Episode 1, he effortlessly escapes and collapses the government within 10 minutes.
Guess who dismantled the government?
That settles that. We break out of this sincere serialization with Rick once more thwarting all expectation of vulnerability, destroying all of his enemies with incomparable genius and making everyone else in the galaxy feel like a fucking idiot. Don't fuck with God, you will be humbled. Did you like that? I got like closer to you. I don't do that normally. The sincerity built up in the Season 2 cliffhanger is pummeled back into irony. Rick attests that he turned himself in literally just to obtain government secrets and collapse the authoritarian reign for his own convenience.
Why would Rick Sanchez turn himself in? It's possible Rick knew he'd be interrogated at this facility. Anyone here with level 9 access could, I don't know, collapse the government.
An authoritarian reign, mind you, that canonically he and his friends Bird Person, Squanchy, Gear Dude, all the other war criminals in the galaxy fought against in a prolonged conflict for years. So Rick could have just ended all of that at any point he felt like it. Why didn't he? Because he didn't fight in the rebellion to make a better world. He did it for fun, because he's God, and he doesn't care when he does what he wants. His moment of remorse turning himself into the government is reframed as a purely spiteful act of vengeance against those that pissed him off, including Jerry including Jerry, who he subtly compels his daughter to divorce, leveraging her abandonment issues against their marriage. This sets up the season to double down on Rick terrorizing Morty's life, upping the ante of his cruelty and delving deeper into the darkness of his all-powerful demonhood.
Take it easy, Rick. That's dark. Oh, it gets darker, Morty. Welcome to the darkest year of our adventures.
And this season is darker. It does insist on Rick's godhood, but it concurrently pokes holes in that supposed godhood until by the end, Rick is reduced to the lowest status member of his family.
There's your stupid hat, dipshit.
Dad, you can't talk to Jerry that way anymore.
How did this happen? Although Rick is to some degree all-powerful and all-knowing, he is not always right.
The series overall, Rick is right, I think, about half the time and wrong about half the time.
He can explain things that you don't understand all day, but he can't humble himself enough to have a fulfilling relationship. He can defeat anyone in competition, but he can't build trust. Season 3 leans into his unstoppable power while emphasizing his fundamental fallibility. Season 3, Episode 2. In Episode 2, Rick becomes annoyed with his grandkids because they're emotionally struggling with their parents' divorce, and he eventually abandons them, following through on his frequent threat that he has infinite grandkids and doesn't need these particular ones.
You're both pieces of shit. I can prove it mathematically. Actually, let me grab my whiteboard. This has been a long time coming.
But he discovers people are not so easily replaceable. Since he decided to settle in with this family in this particular universe, since he tried to alter their emotional lives for his personal gain, he must now suffer the consequences and accountability for their needs. Perhaps in the past, it was easier to slide around between universes without regard for anyone else, but his relationship with this specific universe has progressed to the point that he can't easily interchange it with other versions. So he comes crawling back to help his grandkids process their feelings. I guess the people around you aren't as disposable as you're always insisting, are they? He also discovers vexingly he can't remove his daughter's irrational attachment and commitment to her ex-husband, despite his constant efforts to exploit her vulnerabilities to Rick. Season 3, Episode 3. In Episode 3, Rick is so repulsed by the idea of therapy, he performs a ridiculous experiment and gets himself into a ridiculously dangerous situation, completely unnecessarily. The therapy appointment was made to help Morty and Summer process their parents' divorce and to address the behavioral issues they've developed in reaction to it. But because the therapist is good at her job, she notices in about a millisecond that Beth is way more fucked up than the kids, and Rick's toxicity has been bled down the generational line. While the Smith family is dragged over coals in the form of communicating healthily, Rick stumbles through an epic quest to save his own pickle life, destroying a corrupt organization and releasing an anti-hero from prison. He does all of his impossibly cool shit, then comes crawling back to therapy to get the anti-pickle serum from his daughter and belittles the therapist. But for once, his intelligence and wit isn't rewarded. It's finally confronted by someone with enough confident sincerity and emotional health to hold him accountable for his spiritual cowardice.
The only connection between your unquestionable intelligence and the sickness destroying your family is that everyone in your family use intelligence to justify sickness.
There are things we know are right and good and would be better for us to do. But constantly it's like, yeah, but you know, it's so much funnier and nicer to go do something else. And who cares? And it's all bullshit anyway.
On the way home, Rick and Beth talk each other back into willful ignorance of what they've just been confronted with, while the poor fucking offspring in the back are utterly shell-shocked by the revelatory concept that Rick might not be right about everything. His philosophy might be as poisonous as they already knew it to be in their hearts. There might be a different way to engage with the universe that doesn't demand blind nihilism and cruelty. There could be a way to treat the people around you that actually invites and rewards vulnerability and grace. Oof. Season 3, Episode 4. Episode 4 shows 3 different vital weaknesses within Rick's genius, namely his general dislikability, his emotional vulnerability to Morty, and the simple, sad, insurmountable dysfunction of alcoholism, akin to anyone else's. Rick and Morty are called to an Avengers team-up to fight a big bad guy in a very, very literal call to action.
We're being called to assemble by the Vindicators! I refuse to answer a literal call to adventure, Morty.
The lore seated here is that apparently they already did one of these superhero team-ups, and this is the sequel, supposedly. But they quickly discovered that this is actually the 3rd Avengers team-up, and they did the second one without Rick and Morty, explicitly because Rick is such a fucking asshole, they just didn't want to be around him despite the fact he's so useful. Rick naturally revels in how entertaining this is.
I think the personality conflict might have been you? Jesus. How awesome is that?
But Morty is genuinely bummed out and really takes Rick to task for it. Not by outsmarting him or being more powerful than him, but just by asserting his feelings that Rick makes him feel embarrassed.
Rick, this really bums me out. It's embarrassing to find out these guys don't like us.
Although Rick never outright admits that this bothers him, it clearly does because he storms off to get drunker than we've ever seen him get.
Oh, God.
The Avengers episode is a clean vivisection between Rick's godhood and his frail mortality. While he's blackout drunk, he casually and savagely kills the big bad preemptively out of raw spite. Then he builds a series of saw traps designed to shame the Avengers out of their hero status, demonstrating pettily to Morty that they aren't paragons of justice, but are simply more flawed people that have done plenty of good and evil. Although Rick is a genius for being able to accomplish all this while so drunk he can barely function, he embarrasses himself repeatedly with pathetic, unremarkable, sloppy drunk behavior.
Aloha means has nothing to do with this room. I'm so drunk. I want to rest my eyes for a little bit. I'm not going to sleep. I just need to rest my eyes.
On top of this, Morty's veteran familiarity with Rick's blackout behavior demonstrates a form of superiority over him in the simple fact that alcoholics are a burden to the people around them, often requiring being taken care of by the people they live with.
I'll disarm the drunkenly improvised neutrino bomb. There's a 40% chance it's a dud, but you should still stay back.
Morty, how many of these?
Too many, Rick!
The fundamental reality that Rick isn't fully in control of his faculties and can't remember his most feeble moments while Morty has to witness all of them and solve the issues behind him is a blow to Rick's ego. His mortality is shining through his godhood. Season 3, Episode 5. Episode 5 once again reinforces Rick's contempt for Jerry and inability to escape him.
My son asked you to take me on some kind of pity adventure?
Wait, what did you think it was?
An execution.
Season 3, Episode 6. Episode 6 sees Rick and Morty go through an experimental new detoxifier of the soul, where it slices them in half between what they consider to be their toxic traits and what they consider to be their best traits.
We're the toxins! We're what got removed!
This plot device clarifies Rick's irrational affection for Morty in that he considers this a negative quality, as well as Morty's understanding that he is too attached to Rick, which he also abandons in the machine. When Rick reunites with his toxins, but Morty refuses and runs away, Rick endearingly repeatedly gets drunk and calls Morty's crush at school crying, asking for help to get him back.
She kept coming to our house, Morty, and asking me, did you get a new Morty yet?
Because you kept drunk dialing me and crying about it.
I wasn't crying.
Very cute. That's cute. Season 3, Episode 7. Episode 7, he and Morty just fuck off to Atlantis and aren't seen for a whole episode, while a separate and elaborate saga takes place on the Citadel of Ricks. Nothing important happens in it. It's not even worth watching. Season 3, Episode 8. Episode 8 is Morty's Mind Blowers, the anthology episode of the season in lieu of Interdimensional Cable.
Morty's Mind Blowers. And we'll be doing this instead of Interdimensional Cable.
We get the disquieting education that 25% of what Morty experiences is so horrifying and destructive that he has to have it removed from his memory in order to continue to function.
I wish you could just erase the memory from your mind.
How did you know I was gonna say that?
This, Morty, is my archive of all the experiences you've begged me to remove from your life.
But the satisfying twist is Rick has also systemically removed memories from Morty just because they make Rick insecure.
We should never take things for granted.
What?
I'm just saying, life's short. We shouldn't take things for granted.
Are you saying granite?
Yeah.
It's granted. Did you actually think it was...
Things escalate and they destroy each other's minds entirely, then rediscover their fucked up relationship via their extracted worst memories of each other, rapidly devolving into a suicide pact. Suicide pact? Suicide pact? Suicide pact?
Intervention? 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 No!
Then Summer walks in on them, revealing that this is something that just happens sometimes and there's a contingency plan. Crazy episode. I mean, like, every episode is that insane. I just haven't been explaining the plot of anything in order to emphasize the thematic development of this particular season. Season 3, Episode 9 and 10. Look, I did it again. In Episode 9, Beth reveals herself to be about as smart and dangerous as her father, just nurtured differently to arrive at a subdued state of being. With this realization, Rick offers to clone her so she can go off and pursue an independent, ambitious life of zero commitment like her father, while simultaneously taking care of her family.
I know what I want to do.
Whether or not she's cloned is left ambiguous until one episode later when Beth unravels into an existential paranoid panic attack about whether or not she's a clone and how Rick would have to kill the clone if it became self-aware.
Did you tell my mom she might be a clone?
No, I told her she wasn't.
Well, isn't that what you'd tell a clone?
Oh, for Christ's sake.
This coincides with Rick getting into a god-tier pissing contest with the President of the United States, supposedly for Morty's sake, when it's actually obviously just him stroking his own ego once Morty gets weary and bored of the ordeal.
I feel like he's earned a selfie.
Honestly, I could take it or leave it at this point. I don't need a selfie. Told you I didn't want the damn selfie 800 times. Whatever the hell's going on between you and the president, it's got nothing to do with me.
This total lack of regard for Beth and Morty inadvertently drives the family back together with their father, united in the knowledge that regardless of their existential horror and Rick's interdimensional power, him being a really big piece of shit is one of the only things they can really rely on. They might as well rely on each other instead, like they were fine before he got there. Rick, in this episode, brokers peace between Israel and Palestine, breaks into the White House and kills a man without doing anything.
I guarantee you're gonna die if you touch me, and there's no afterlife. Everything just goes black. Don't do it.
Whoa, Rick!
What was that?
Death.
What kind?
Instant.
He declares himself a god.
He's not a
god.
You don't know what I am.
But all that godhood can't stop everyone's respect for him plummeting, or Jerry's re-entering the family through raw sincerity and familiarity and reliability. Rick is made uncomfortably aware that he is quite mortal. He runs on fickle intuition without any principles or sincerity. As consistently right about the facts as he may be, he's not useful. His lack of sincerity might make him cool, might make him strong, but time reveals him to be spineless and selfish and less valuable than simple commitment to the community you've been blessed with. This season-long dissection into Rick's assumed godhood ends with him small and impotent, his family straight up laughing in his face about how much of an untrustworthy bitch he is.
Maybe you are a clone. It's not like Rick would tell us.
Sometimes, if you're smart, you need to shut the fuck up and learn how to be a good person. Flexing your intelligence and asserting your authority over the whole universe is a kind of stupidity. Part 4, stupidity and intelligence. It's a new day. This is tomorrow now. Why would I lie to you? What would be the utility in dressing the same and simulating one day? Jerry is not as smart as the rest of the family, and everyone torches him for it. He's a reliable archetype of an impotent father, particularly in season 1. In season 3, he's a sad divorcee doing sad divorcee stuff, but then seasons 4 and 5 find him back in the family, no smarter, but with a little more dignity.
In many ways, things will be like season 1, but more streamlined.
Starting any season 1 with a well-defined and reliable archetype is not something to look down on. They're archetypes for a reason, and if you want a healthy sitcom that you're going to be able to write a whole lot of entries for, it's good to start with a firm foundation. The archetype and single-sentence character description are the analytical form, and your intuitive creativity will carry you through that mechanism, flavoring the eternal with your personal voice and manifestation. The deeper you move into participating in the eternal, the more you find that there is great individuality within it. We are all one, but we are all unique representations of the same one. All characters and people are made of the same components. All stories are made of the same beats, but we keep creating them because there are endless ways to articulate that which cannot be spoken. So stop worrying about whether or not your creativity is special. Just start participating. You'll find the individuality and rapture you're looking for on the other side. So Jerry starts as an embarrassing, insecure dad, and that's the whole bit. And it works fine. But what it becomes in the larger philosophical framework of this universe is the ultimate counterweight to the ironic, detached intelligence of Rick Sanchez.
You win, Jerry. No amount of genius can stop your dumb, mediocre, vacuous roots from digging into everything and everyone around you and draining them of any ability to fend you off.
Rick is interesting. He can comment on anything. He can do anything. He's above everything. He's addictive to watch as a perverted protagonist, not because he's empathetic, but because he's a spectacle. His power is a marvel to witness. His wit boundless. He is always surprising, always cool, always entertaining. My editor left a note here that just says, "You're describing yourself." Jerry is boring. He's not smart, he's not cool, he's not original, he is to be laughed at, not with. Where Rick's pride is based on his own staggering intelligence and capability, Jerry's pride is a limp tantrum based on nothing but his insecurities. But a punching bag is not an enduringly compelling character, and an impotent father is a tried archetype. So one of the grand tasks of the show is developing Jerry into an inescapable force to rival Rick. Genetically, Rick's genius has passed down to Beth, and then that genius maybe kind of passed on to Summer, but is definitely watered down by Jerry, and then Morty seems to have gotten a lot of the Jerry.
Is everyone in your family an idiot?
For sure, me and my dad are.
But although Morty is hereditarily inferior in intelligence to Beth and Rick, he familiarizes himself with this insane multiverse that he's constantly shoved into, and then by the end of season 5, he's just performing stone-cold badass acts of intelligence and bravery.
Hey, Narnia, let's go. Let's f***ing go.
Given Morty's initial archetype of the weak-willed, vulnerable kid, it's satisfaction in the can to watch him be in charge of any situation.
Are you dying of dementia?
How are you talking to me like this? When did you get so cocky?
Tonight!
The writers lean into the inevitability of badassery that would result of being Rick's companion for this long.
But sometimes you gotta be an asshole. My grandpa taught me that.
Okay. But such evolution would be antithetical to Jerry's character model. Jerry is defined by his incompatibility with the rest of the family. Jerry is the only one completely untainted by the Sanchez bloodline. He is biologically the only outsider. He's the epitome of everything mundane that Rick regards with disdain, this smudge of insignificance intruding upon his life of adventures and innovation.
Pretty cool, huh, Morty? Oh.
I thought it was cool.
I don't give a fuck what you think, Jerry.
He wears his insecurities on his sleeve. He's easily outwitted. He tends to have no backbone in conflict, but he is understandable. He is reliable. He loves what he loves. He may lack nuance, but he's sincere to the bone. He's not trying to outsmart the unknowable cosmic forces of the universe. He's just an ant in a line of ants marching unremarkably towards a predetermined destination.
Now here's human music.
This state of certainty and security, being an unquestioning cog in a giant machine, is not a luxury that Rick Sanchez has. And so buried within his ignorance and ineptitude, Jerry has something that Rick does not. He knows that he can't control the universe and he's fine with it. And what's wrong with being average? What's wrong with being a low-stakes, regular person? When did that become a sin?
How about you, Jerry? You got anything to add to the family dynamic?
I've been getting into beekeeping lately. Is something wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Don't I have the right to be happy? To exist?
What's wrong with being a Jerry, trusting and earnest to the point of being easily deceived, aspiring to domestic and career success in the most mundane way? The answer is literally nothing. That's fine.
You know when you're a teenager and you low-key think that you're one of the only people that really get it? One of the people that only get what really matters?
Then in your 20s, you progressively start to only care about how clean your apartment is. To some degree, there is something slightly childish about the novel and beautiful about the boring. When Rick is confronted by the therapist at the end of Pickle Rick, his genius is not contested. What is challenged directly is his willingness to participate in the general monotonous task of mental health.
I have no doubt that you would be bored senseless by therapy. The same way I'm bored when I brush my teeth and wipe my ass.
Garage, family therapy mode.
Cause Rick is cool, he's smart, no one's contesting those premises, but he's also unlikable, he's mean, he makes everyone's lives worse. I'm talking about myself again. All that intelligence has not helped him at all in participating in life's simple, beautiful little idiosyncrasies. When intelligence and coolness lands you in a pit of irony and suffering, is that even intelligence? Isn't that kind of just a new kind of stupidity? Isn't Rick's supposed godhood somewhat inferior to the repeating present consciousness of a billion Jerrys?
Jerry!
Yeah. Oh, come on, this is ridiculous.
I love you, Jerry!
Aww.
Isn't the small and inescapable mortality that Jerry represents a more sincere expression of God than this detached, cruel selfishness? For how embarrassing his family might find his feeble attempts at gaining agency or something to be proud of in his life, he's one of the only people that's sincerely engaging with the honest-to-God present, not trapped in the past and future, trying to impress everyone around him all the time. I love this recurring bit in season 1 where whenever he's on his iPad and he's mindlessly playing a game, the game he's playing looks like he's basically just popping balloons. There aren't even visible points or rules at all.
Dad.
This is enough for him. Even with his worst qualities and behaviors, his myriad insecurities, and his inferiority complex, a lot of it is easily traceable to the brain disease of irony that's been infecting his family, seeping out of the poisonous heart of Rick. In season 1, episode 6, Jerry asks his wife if she still loves him, and she goes on a monologue about how loving is work, and no one wants to do work, but she's doing the work, so he should stop asking stupid questions, and please be less insecure so maybe I can love you more.
Beth, do you still love me?
Ugh, what kind of question is that?
The yes or no kind?
Loving you is work, Jerry. Do you see me working here? Does this conversation seem tedious to me?
Sort of.
Then I obviously sort of love you, don't I?
It's funny, it's badass, it's relatable in terms of how tiring it can be to maintain a long-term relationship in unideal circumstances, but also... Really, Beth? Your husband asked you if you love him. You don't have a hug and a kiss in you, bitch? Grow up. Oh, you're right. Loving someone is work, and most of that work is hugs and words of affirmation. Would that have been that taxing for you? Is being smart ever gonna give you real power over the universe? I keep doing that. Don't try to get smart with the universe. The universe will always outsmart you. She divorces this motherfucker, then comes crawling back in an existential panic.
What are you, an idiot? I'm sorry. That was so rude. I came to you for help, and now I'm insulting your intelligence, and look where intelligence gets you.
Jerry beat her to the punch of her own insecurity. He admitted his frailty and fears to his wife's face and gave her his heart, allowing her the ability to hurt him, running that risk bravely. And what are you doing, just being a bitch to your husband who loves you? Reality does not reward the arrogant. The unknowable thwarts mortal plans, evades control, and punishes hubris. Pride cometh before the fall. Icarus pays the price for his altitude. The more spiritual attuned way to reckon with the unknowable and uncontrollable is by humbling yourself before it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. By this spiritual metric, Rick is comparatively puny and weak, but Jerry, in his frailty, is holy. While the incomprehensible rages all around him, he's just a little guy that wants to hang out. And he deserves to. Worship of intelligence and resentment of vulnerability is ripping through the Smith-Sanchez family like a genetic disease. Jerry's supposed pathetic emasculated inferiority complex would likely not even exist if he was shown an iota of normal empathetic love. He only feels the need to go way out of his lane to prove his value and fight petty little fights because he's surrounded by obnoxious know-it-alls that are constantly shaming him for being normal. Many times throughout the show, members of the Smith family will make a little lurch towards earnestness just to be slapped down.
Hey. Who wants to go run in a stream?
What the f? No.
The most egregious occurrence of this is when the children asked to go back to therapy on the way from home driving home therapy. This is where we spotlight the cowardice of the allegedly two smartest members of the family. They take the kids to therapy for their misbehavior, and then when the kids respond positively and ask politely to go back to therapy, they ignore them out of fear.
I mean, that shrink. What a monologuist.
Are we gonna go back?
We should get a drink.
Really? Like, go somewhere?
Yeah, let's drop the kids off and go tie one on.
I liked her.
So, what do you think in, like, Smokey's Tavern?
Together, they mock the one person that ever challenged their intelligence with kindness, then they shirk the well-being of those they're meant to care for, and they run off to get drunk and laugh about how stupid it is that other people care about stuff. That's not useful. That's not intelligence. You're just an asshole. Real intelligence knows beyond just being right. You also need to construct and participate in a life worth living. Actual strong people are brave enough to admit that they're afraid of loneliness or heartbreak or the nothingness at the end of all existence, and are grateful for their piece of life at the middle of a terrifying expanse of death.
Death is real.
Part 5, serialization and the episodic. Serialization is when you develop the individual episodes of your story into one larger overarching narrative. We, as special little snowflake pronoun-loving Gen Z, golden age of TV streaming service bitches, are very used to this. We tend to expect linear narratives progressing towards climactic conclusions, incorporating every piece of the canon, generating some higher meaning. It is the nature of normalizing consuming an entire season of a show in one night, rather than tuning in weekly for something self-contained. Bingeable TV literally means you need to know what happens next now. If there wasn't some grandiose tapestry being woven together by all the episodes, then you wouldn't have an addictive itch to watch the next. So the normalization of serialized television is a fairly recent invention enabled by the internet. Dan Harmon traverses this uncomfortable no man's land between old guard network TV and the modern internet era. Although he's now partnered with Adult Swim, a network that's notoriously in touch with the punk rock pulse of modern media, although his show feels reckless and relentless in a way that the internet tends to be.
Oh shoot, now look, it's like a Where's Waldo page. Can you find me?
Although the dialogue can feel like a good avant-garde Tumblr text post, Rick and Morty is a classic sitcom. It is born of sitcom sensibility, it abides by sitcom law. Rick and Morty is not Game of Thrones, it's not Breaking Bad, it's not even Community, in which they acknowledge the passing of years and aging of characters. It's a cartoon show with avatars who never age or meaningfully change, endlessly fighting eldritch monsters of the week. There is meaning to this. Television can be a beautiful thing. When we turn it on, we're seeking something dependably entertaining, mixing the uncomfortable with the comfortable, injecting ourselves with familiar characters and reliable laughter to distract ourselves from our rotting bodies transforming into corpses in real time. Most sitcoms do have ongoing arcs, but they are truly measured by their reusability, their utility, their reliability. A good sitcom premise is a structure that should allow for infinite entertainment. The conceit in characters should be fuel for endless debacles. This sort of show is called evergreen content. Video essays are evergreen content. If you've watched one of my video essays, you haven't watched it once, you'll be back for your rewatch of this video very, very soon. Breaking Bad was not evergreen content. It was highly serialized. It was always changing, and it had to end when it had to end, because if you don't allow highly serialized content to end when it has to end, then it starts to suffer in quality and beg for death like a Mr. Meeseeks that wasn't allowed to accomplish its task and poof out of existence.
Meeseeks don't usually have to exist this long. It's getting weird.
So when the creators of Rick and Morty are transparently passionate about maintaining the show as an evergreen property, it means that generally serialized elements are to be avoided, or at the very least approached with a hesitant apprehension.
We took very careful steps to make him a kind of non-shark jumpable character that we want him to be kind of evergreen.
If you have a carefully constructed conceit from which you could branch off infinitely in a million directions forever, it is wise to reset the equilibrium at the end of every episode. Why would you fuck with your premise that specifically allows you to do anything you want? SpongeBob wasn't heavy on the character development. But the fans fucking love continuity. And any group of passionate writers are constantly going to be tempted towards making what they're doing mean something. The Rick and Morty creative team is blatantly, ceaselessly struggling between the urge to maintain their episodic perfect fun box and transmorgify their show into a serialized epic. But indulging that impulse can make you take what you're doing way too seriously to allow the show to continue to thrive.
Oh man, we've created the perfect fun machine. And then you go, it's just, you can't tell when you're slipping into like taking your fun machine too seriously.
The whole point of Rick and Morty is a loosely improvisatory style and childish imagination being channeled through a tightly structured methodology of storytelling. Intuition systemically shoved through analysis. Irony systemically shoved through sincerity. Stupidity shoved through intelligence. So why fuck with that by over-intellectualizing the serialized canon of Morty Smith, who is basically a circle atop a yellow rectangle? These characters were never useful because they were worthy of myth and lore. They were useful because they're bottled potential, functional, entertaining rhythms within which to insert substance. But any fan of anything is naturally inclined to obsess over that particular property. You emotionally invest in the dots you are provided, your myth-loving brain drawing lines between vectors. We want to make sense of things. There's nothing wrong with that, but the more you serialize your story, the more you lock yourself away from endless possibility. And potentially the reason you like the show in the first place.
Oh no, we really painted ourselves in a corner with that serialized story of the one-armed man. Is this island a Rubik's Cube or the dream of a turtle? We kind of implied it was a turtle dream, now we're fucked. We more just have Schrodinger's possibilities. If you ask your parents if you're going to the zoo and they say we're not sure yet, they're bad parents. If you ask your showrunner, that's good showrunning. Because what they're actually doing is keeping the show healthy and evergreen and only making that decision canon the very moment it has to be.
Serialization is commitment. It's accountability. It's less fun, but more meaningful and sincere. And no one complains more about serialization than Rick Sanchez.
He does not like serialized drama.
The overarching serialized plot of Rick and Morty is about the intergalactic government, a rebellion against it, and the Citadel of Ricks, which is a neutral, evil, multiversal Sweden. Spoilers for everything, in case you watched my... this isn't a review channel, fuck off. Of course there's spoilers, why did you come here? The galaxy at large is governed by an intergalactic government mostly run by space bugs. Rick evidently in his past participated in a rebellion against this intergalactic government alongside his best friends Bird Person, Squanchy, Gear Dude et al. They have engaged in epic battles against the government in the name of freedom and are all deemed war criminals.
The road your father and I walk together is soaked deeply with the blood of both friends and enemies. The galactic government considers us terrorists. We have committed numerous atrocities in the name of freedom.
Rick participated in this battle, however, the stakes of his personal reality are much higher and multifaceted, because Rick is the only man in any universe to invent interdimensional travel via his portal gun. Once one has access to all alternative dimensions, your own dimension ceases to retain the significance it once had. You become an unattached god constantly at arm's length with reality, knowing this is one of an endless series of canons. And once you, Rick, the smartest man in the universe, become the only one to invent interdimensional travel, you join ranks with countless Ricks from other universes in the same boat. These Ricks naturally run into each other and get in cahoots.
The Citadel of Ricks. It's the secret headquarters for the Council of Ricks.
In mimicry of Marvel's Council of Reeds, the Citadel of Ricks is a conglomeration across the multiverse of Ricks ensuring there is multiversal peace within their own ranks of interdimensional troublemakers, as well as protecting themselves from each interstellar government.
I've got a lot of enemies in the universe that consider my genius a threat.
Of course, our point of view Rick, reportedly the rickest Rick of them all, hates being told what to do by anyone, be it the galactic government within his own universe or the Council of Ricks throughout all universes. And yet the canonical forces of his past follow him ceaselessly. Rick, a deeply influential force in the multiverse, obviously has an integral role to play in the history of that multiverse, but he avoids adopting any responsibility for reality. His goal is not to be a notable historical figure, but to do what he wants and receive no consequence. Shortly before Season 1, Episode 1, Rick resigns himself to a life of episodic fun, no longer trying to create meaning out of chaos except for self-contained adventures that are exciting and distracting. He commits to living in a regular suburban home with his family to provide himself some sort of security symmetry and structure, then lords himself as the key to brilliance and variety within that context. Let me say that again. For his entire life, up until the moment the show Rick and Morty begins, Rick is heavily serialized, suffering through complicated struggles and interpersonal conflicts. Then once the show begins, Rick is committed entirely to episodic limitless adventures. The meta idea of Rick and Morty being a perfect fun machine is expressed in the in-universe concept of adventures.
I get to be in charge of every third adventure.
Every 10th.
Deal. I, Morty Smith, invoke my right to choose one in every 10 Rick and Morty adventures. Read them and weep.
Damn it.
From a character design standpoint alone, your walking, talking, endless sandbox of godlike knowledge and opportunity cannot have a concrete higher purpose, or that kind of ruins the bit.
Is Rick up to something? Does he have a larger goal that he hasn't shared yet? Or is what you see what you get? I'm gonna say as a writer, if he's working on something, then I guess that would ruin the show.
If their ultimate goal, or the question of if they have an ultimate goal, remains a mystery, then you retain a sense of wonder and chaos. One of Dan Harmon's aphorisms carried over from old TV is the phrase jumping the shark.
I think one of the few big giant shark jumpers of Rick and Morty.
We took very careful steps to make him a kind of non-shark jumpable character.
What exactly is in Rick's flask? Liquor, whiskey, rum, or something that he's brewed himself?
That's a shark jumper, man.
You wanna jump the shark? You wanna know my stupid crybaby backstory?
Jumping the shark is a reference to when the classic sitcom Happy Days ran out of ideas and dignity to the point of making the Fonz water ski over a shark. The point is, it's not good writing. It's not good use of the premise. It's spectacle. This is a show getting away from its own usefulness in hope of stirring a moment of superficial intrigue. In Rick's opinion, learning his backstory would be jumping the shark of Rick and Morty. He even resents recurring anthology episodes.
I just upgraded our cable package with programming from every conceivable reality.
What are you doing?
A sequel.
I don't understand.
Yeah, me neither. We pretty much nailed it the first time. Morty's Mind Blowers. And we'll be doing this instead of interdimensional cable.
In season 3, when he offers his daughter to clone her so she can explore who she is uninhibited while taking care of her family simultaneously, she asks him why he would do something like that. What are his motivations? And he answers as honestly and vaguely as he's capable of, given the show's unwillingness to reveal his inner truth and personal distaste for serialization.
If nothing matters, why would you do that for me?
Maybe I love you. Maybe something about your mother. Don't jump a gift shark in the mouth.
Even in this inescapably serious moment with his daughter, he's not willing to sacrifice his freedom of unlimited mystery and adventure. Beth's decision on this front and whether or not she is a clone is left ambiguous until season 4, when it's revealed that her decision was to ask her father to decide for her.
I want you to decide.
What?
Do you want me to stay here and be part of your life, or do you want me to leave?
His reaction to this was to clone his daughter and then wipe his own memory of which one was the real one.
Beth turned around and locked eyes with him and said, "Tell me what kind of daughter you would like me to be." Rick's response was to roofie her and avoid the entire conversation. An ancient Greek level of bad fatherhood.
And then he can't bear to even know which one is which. He made a non-choice and committed to it really hard.
He proceeds to lie to both of them, just constantly saying the other one's real. Don't worry about it.
Beth.
You mean Beth's clone?
Right. What did I say? You're not a clone.
And who is that?
A clone?
This direct challenge to his heart is met with such frailty of spirit that it puts a line in the sand in regards to Rick's sense of superiority over the rest of his family.
You don't want to know the truth?
The truth is we have more important shit to do, like raise our kids and stamp out the Federation.
He's been trying to convince everyone that nothing matters time after time, but Space Beth and Real Beth experiencing solidarity over Rick's abuse allows them to realize what definitely doesn't matter is this fucking dude, because we're alive and we actually care about what we do. It doesn't matter which clone is the original, they're both alive and they actually are committed to shit that they care about. Rick's objective truth will gain them nothing.
I don't care what's in that vial. Yeah, me neither. You're a piece of shit either way.
So instead of waiting around to figure out his truth, they are comfortable in their own knowledge and walk away from him laughing at him. So Rick sits alone and finds out himself. And he discovers in a real moment of shame that his daughter surrendered herself to him and he actively shut himself away from that truth so that he wouldn't have any profound secrets that he could know in the back of his head, and he could completely opt out of his part in the serialization taking place around him within his family, desperately trying to avoid establishing any further canon. Pathetic. Sad. But he can't undo the canon he's already established as an enemy of the state and a founder of the citadel of Ricks. And most crippling of all, having a friend and a family. What is Rick Sanchez's backstory? Let's say it, just like he'd hate it being told.
You wanna know my stupid crybaby backstory? Knock yourself out. Not now!
The origin story he faked in the season 3 opener was based on truth.
He used that origin story to trap his tormentors and trick them, draw them in. If you were going to use a fake origin story to trap somebody, would it be faster to construct one from scratch, or would you maybe do some cutting and pasting from reality?
Our Rick is the most dangerous and passionately philosophically episodic Rick because he was the only Rick strong and autonomous enough to consciously choose intimate mortality over godhood.
I just took a long look at myself and I don't think this science thing is gonna pay off.
Why don't I get Beth and we'll go out for ice cream?
That is the last great idea that will ever be had in this garage.
The idea that Rick is the most nihilistic, most lethal, most intelligent, most facile Rick, being rooted in the fact that he was the one and only Rick on the central finite curve, to turn his back on his Rickness and want to just not be Rick and spend it with his wife, who was then taken from him by all the other Ricks. Would that be genius?
In his original reality, once he encroached upon inventing interdimensional travel, an other dimensional Rick approached him to make first contact on behalf of the multiverse. He offered him the alleged godhood of Rick Sanchez via multiversal travel. Nothing matters. There are infinite dimensions. We're all gonna die. There is no point committing to anything. Live your life moment to moment, doing the dopest possible shit, sacrificing nothing, because sacrifice is only vulnerability, and vulnerability only exists to be exploited.
Imagine doing anything you want, then hopping to a timeline where you never did it. Imagine going anywhere, anytime with nobody able to stop you. You think it's cool being the smartest man on Earth, but once we give you this technology, you become the smartest thing in every conceivable universe.
Every Rick is confronted with this knowledge. Our Rick is one of the very few, if not the only, who refuse the call to apathy.
Infinite Rick, a god. Pass. Excuse me?
Then in a spiteful and familiar urge to destroy that which disagrees with his godhood, the propositional Rick kills the family of this disgustingly sincere version of himself.
No!
This inspires our Rick to create his interdimensional portal gun after all, as all Ricks are compelled to do one way or another. He embarks across the universe, bolstering his genius, learning all there is to learn. The underlying bitter need for closure pushes him to try to find that one petty, vengeful Rick to kill the man who killed his wife and child. He fails to find this one particular piece of shit needle across the haystack of the universe, so he gradually adopts the impending philosophy of fickle self-determination imposed by his interdimensional self across the multiverse. His singular internal motivation for revenge burns bright, but in the meantime, he seeks the scientific and spontaneously exciting across the universe. This path of thrill-seeking leads him first to the party circuit, wherein he meets Squanchy, Bird Person, and Gear Dude at a festival. At some point, Squanchy has a bad stand-up phase, and then eventually they all become embroiled into rebellion. Star Wars, Rebel Alliance, sci-fi cool shit is cool until it's cliche.
Come on, kids, we have to go do a fucking piece of shit Star Wars.
He did a Blade Runner, he did a Star Wars, he did trope-filled archetypical serialization all the way to the Battle of Blood Ridge.
Bird Person's big day, Morty, was at Blood Ridge.
This is alluded to in the wedding episode, then finally seen in glorious canonical certainty within Bird Person's fractured memory in Season 5, Episode 9. The Battle of Blood Ridge was the Resistance's final stand against the intergalactic government that supposedly crippled the government significantly enough that the rebels were then free to live their lives in relative peace. Rick's best friend Bird Person joined the fight for the rebellion because his whole planet was genocided and conquered. Rick joined the rebellion because it was cool. He also joined the rebellion to stack up favors that he could cash in the form of Bird Person, assisting him on his revenge crusade against the interdimensional Ricks in a futile attempt to kill so many alternate versions of himself that he'd slay the one responsible for his tragic backstory.
You omitted key details regarding tonight's mission.
Or listen, you help me do my stuff, I'll help you do your stuff.
The Battle of Blood Ridge goes perfect. It's climactic, it's legendary, it's canonical. Rick and Bird Person fight for bloody justice against corrupt authority. In the momentous glee of their victory, in the rapture of everything being so cool and perfect, Rick has a vulnerable moment and shares the most intimate thing he has with his best friend. Endless, meaningless truth.
It was extremely badass. The Battle of Blood Ridge is over.
Come with me.
to somewhere nearby.
Anywhere, everywhere. I share this with almost nobody, but I could take you right now to this same battlefield in a universe where we lost, or another where the war never even happened. All equally real, all equally unreal. None of it matters.
Notably, the same proposition that the Rick that ruined his life gave to him. Fall away with me into arbitrary freedom. Release vulnerability and sink into the non-stop fun machine. Perhaps for Rick, there would be far more meaning within this devastating lack of closure and purpose with a friend you love at your side with which to enjoy your adventures. But in Rick's second of 3 lapses in his whole lifetime of emotionally committing to something, he's rejected, this time not by the cold, meaningless cosmos, but by his best friend who simply has higher principles than Rick's worship of frivolity.
The relationship that we have
I never used that word.
is not worth my integrity.
Oh my God.
Rick's self-determination and gravitation towards cool shit coincides with Bird Person's genuine desire for a better universe. So they fight on the same side and bond all the way to the point that Rick finally confesses his true feelings.
Then why did you help?
Because I respect you, and I wanted you to know you could respect me.
Even though nothing matters?
Okay, you matter. To me.
Rick is bisexual and he has feelings for Bird Person. I'll say that right now, it's canonical. He's had relations with men before, and he treats Bird Person's rejection as a genuine heartbreak. He's bi, that's canon.
Why the f are you risking your life for that asshole? Because you love him.
The relationship that we have.
I never used that word.
You can see Rick's emotional investment in the idea of Blood Ridge, or anything in the existence of Bird Person's memory of Rick. Sorry, the show is really twisty. This younger, more naive version of Rick stored in Bird Person's memory is very upfront about the fact that he just likes cool shit. He's excited by the idea that Blood Ridge even ends in tragedy just because it'd be so cinematic.
You're saying Blood Ridge goes bad? We have a Vietnam? That's fucking cool. Why am I saving a friend that remembers me as this insufferable?
But the tragedy of Blood Ridge wasn't material failure. It was the moment that Rick finally stopped lying to Bird Person about why he was helping him save the universe. Bird Person did it because it meant something to him. Rick did it because it was fun, and because Bird Person meant something to him. That's it though. No commitment to a higher purpose. No sense of responsibility to any community. No principle except for his own fleeting want. Kant would be so disappointed. When Bird Person rejects him, it cuts really fucking deep because it highlights, perhaps for the first time, how hollow Rick's new hyperconsciousness and omniscience really is. Irony is not something you have unless you had sincerity and it was devastated by reality. After his second heartbreak, Rick devotes his life to murdering as many other Ricks as physically possible. If he just genocides his own multiversal self, maybe eventually he'll find that piece of shit needle. His despairing, murderous rampage escalates until he's just drinking and killing all the versions of him that are trying to eliminate the ultimate threat to their own existence, all the way until he lazily slaughters the colony of Ricks that it has built up against him. They beg for their lives at his feet, and peace is brokered, resulting in the creation of the Citadel of Ricks. Although Rick doesn't have respect for this structure and political organization, it was specifically formed as a peace treaty between himself and all other Ricks to ensure interdimensional warfare of that magnitude didn't rear its head again, and Ricks could live in peace. Shortly after establishing the Citadel of Ricks, our Rick tumbles into a random reality where Beth isn't dead, she's grown into an adult and married a Jerry and had 2 kids. This is the reality where Rick started going on adventures with Morty. This is the reality of season 1, episode 1. Until season 1, episode 6, when Rick destroys that reality and abandons it with Morty to another, where they stay for the rest of the series to date. That's Rick's boring, tragic, jump the shark backstory. Dead wife and a traumatic relationship with canonized meaning.
Whoa. Dead wife? Yes, now everyone can shut up about it.
He learned from his thwarted attempts at sincerity that genuine efforts to find purpose are worthless. The only principle to follow is have fun, and have fun without relying on anyone around you. But Space Beth is stronger than him. I ran out of this one, so I have a little bit left in this one. When Rick clones his daughter and sends one of the versions off to space, she launches into the hero phase that her father once embodied, without the interdimensional apathy. She's authentically stimulated by actually fighting for a better galaxy, despite Rick's degradations.
My daughter, having space adventures. They are skewing a tad Star Wars-y, though. Don't forget to have fun.
The Galactic Federation is making a comeback in the wake of Rick's destruction of it in the previous season, labeling Space Beth now the most wanted rebel in the galaxy.
It's not a competition.
Of course not. Just curious, though, if it were, would Most Wanted be first place?
Because on a galactic level, Rick might be the most powerful person in the galaxy, but he doesn't give a shit about anything. So he's only an issue if you bother him. So the ultimate disrespect there is to do to him is fucking stop caring about him. Give him exactly what he's asking for with his life philosophy.
I'm the one you really want.
If you're left alone, you're a non-threat.
Ooh, fuck.
You want nothing to do with anything? Congrats, no one wants anything to do with you. Is this what you wanted? Insignificance to matter as little to the world as it means to you? What else would your lack of sincerity beget? Or is not caring only cool when everyone else cared? That fear of sincerity was born out of the brutal, intimate punishment it earned him in his early family life. It was punched in deeper when he proposed to his best friend and was rejected. Then he reveled in the power his irony granted him for 3 full seasons until it was punished by his family unit. It's further punished by his daughter and his daughter's clone, resulting in the first sequence of pure insecurity from a Rick too ashamed and embarrassed to face his family. Genius or not, nothing meaningful to offer. But his bond with Morty is a different matter. The show is called Rick and Morty. They are destined to adventure together. It is meant to be. Or is it? In season 1, episode 10, an evil Rick is going across the universe with an evil Morty, killing Ricks and kidnapping Mortys. They're scanning the brains of Ricks for unknown purposes and torturing Mortys as an experimental method of cloaking their base. See, Mortys are canonically generally so weak-willed and anxious and stupid that their brainwaves act as a camouflage for Rick's bravado, confidence, and genius. Morty's stupid brain make Rick big brain undetectable. Sure. But there's an allusion at the end of episode 10 to a different kind of Morty, one that survives long enough and progresses to the point of their own confidence and agency.
A cocky Morty can lead to some big problems. Can be a real bad thing for everybody.
Oh yeah? How's that?
I'll explain when you're older.
We are teased with what fans coined as Evil Morty, some looming inevitability, the inverse of the premise, a Morty that outwits Rick. Tantalizing, a piece of the past come back to haunt Rick's ever-present. Then it's dropped until season 3, episode 7, the Ricklantis mix-up, which is commonly heralded as one of the best, if not the best, episode of the entire show. An epic, visceral exploration through a classist, unjust, vicious cycle of society on the reconstructed citadel of Rick's, recovering and reimagining itself in the wake of Rick C-137's casual annihilation of everything. A nightmarishly realistic expression of a broken society.
Get the off the car, you Rickless animal!
The twist is, a Morty becomes the new president, and apparently he has a dark past. A Mortifying one, even. My editor added here, kill yourself. So whoever this Morty is, he has apparently kidnapped and tortured alternate versions of himself and even Rick's en masse with ice-cold blood and precision, apparently inching towards some mysterious goal. Then we drop it for 22 episodes. Fuck it. The only mention of him before the finale of season 5 is a fake sequence where Rick and Morty's potential canonical adventures are literally extracted out of them by a villain.
Don't you want to see how your story ends?
They literally use this inconsequential bottle episode bit to exercise themselves of recurring characters and climactic conclusions that could potentially happen deliberately, killing the possibility of doing something conventionally satisfying.
Is any of this canon?
It could have been.
I don't smoke weed because I have a psychotic reaction to it, which is what this episode feels like. My brain's a little brokey-okey, I don't know what's real, uh-oh. I need medical attention. I need someone to accept me, flaws and all. I need a weapon that can kill people that aren't real. I need headphones to drown out the voices from my past telling me I don't deserve to be happy. I need a brain scan for science that I need to be shot in the head for the greater good. I will die in my 50s like my father before me. I have limited time to realize my dreams, and my heart's been broken before, so I'm as determined and confident as I must be to achieve my ends before death swipes me away forever. Ooh. Part 5B, Day 3, the finale. Death coming quickly, ain't no time to dilly-dally. My man's named Sam and my girl's named Sally. I met my polycule at an anti-vax rally. I shaved clean for the first one. You actually see that my stubble has grown in over the past 2 days of filming. The first day, the energy was really there. The second day, I had to kind of push through it. Third day, it's fucking back, baby. I'm back! Evil Morty was a compelling promise that needed to be delivered upon. He was created open-ended without a grand plan in mind so as to not interrupt the natural creative process.
We don't decide anything that becomes canon until we have to.
Then he was elaborated upon in an iconically exciting way, but again, what was the fucking... It's not sure. In the finale of season 5, it was tinily fine to follow through, and they went hard. And they went hard in the most Rick and Morty way possible.
Do you know what the central finite curve is? They built a wall around infinity. What are you doing about it, Jack? I'm leaving.
Evil Morty's grandmaster plan is to leave the show Rick and Morty. The central finite curve is a phrase that was introduced back in season 1 as an aside during the introduction of the Citadel of Ricks.
Of all the Ricks in the central finite curve, you're the malcontent.
Presumably as some unchangeable tenet of reality beyond which life as we understand it cannot exist. Some Rick and Morty comic somewhere ventured to define it as universes wherein life can exist. But finally, in the finale, they revealed the central finite curve is a rope of reality selected carefully from the ceaseless variety of the multiverse, tying together every reality where Rick is the ultimate life form, picking out every particular reality wherein he invents the interdimensional portal gun and thus achieves a consequence-free godhood, with the ever-present ability to change universes within the central finite curve, or get a new family member, or experience endless variety, with the only contingency that he must always be completely unparalleled in power level. After Rick's revenge genocide quest against himself and the subsequent truce, the central finite curve was designed so that the Ricks could insulate themselves against any further existential threats that might annihilate all Ricks again. He's not actually transcendently genius, he's just rigged the game so that he's always genius within every universe he steps through. This internal institutionalized insurance of constant cost-free adventures and utter control of their universe is further doubled down on when the Citadel of Ricks began farming Mortys for constant use and disposal.
The Citadel became its own Morty market. This is why we're with them. This is why we're alive.
You'll recognize this fundamental dehumanization of Mortys at the hands of Ricks from the real animated adventures of Doc and Marty. Wait a second. Shit. I think the real animated adventures of Doc and Marty actually does follow the monomyth.
Oh man, my kite's in the tree, Doc. I hate this stupid tree.
We'll go back in time, and we'll make sure that your kite doesn't get stuck in the tree. Marty, we have a problem. The time travel car won't start.
Oh no, you want me to?
Yes, Marty. It's the only way to fix our time travel car.
I'm confused.
Marty, trust me.
Here goes nothing.
It's working. Here we are, in your front lawn 30 years ago. It doesn't matter who planted the tree, Marty. The only way to stop them.
Again?
Trust me, Marty.
All right, Doc. Say no more.
Oh, ouch!
Ah! I'm disappearing. It hurts.
Now why don't we go back and fly your kite, Marty?
Oh, Doc, this is the most fun. Because now that there's no tree, I can fly the kite all in the yard. I sometimes often wonder who that 1950s man was.
Oh my God, Marty! You're disappearing!
Oh God, Doc, why?
He must have been your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
I don't know what to do, Marty. Wait, Doc, I've got an idea.
By Jove, you're right, Marty. It's working.
You saved my life.
No, Marty, we saved your life.
Follow your intuition and start creating. The eternal story always reveals itself.
He's an infinite smear of one shitty old man, and he's attached to us infinitely through his weakness and our forgiveness.
This is the conceit of the show. Rick killed himself so much that he made a contract with himself that ensured he would always be in an authoritative position everywhere he stepped. Then they started creating Mortys and conditioning them to be his weak-willed counterpart. The central finite curve is the episodic show Rick and Morty. They created it. The reason Rick is so resentful of serialization is because it's us peeking behind the contrived veil that is the episodic nature of his universe. The ultimate villain of the show is not just a Morty that's so battle-hardened and sick of Rick's shit that he's advanced to the capability of being able to defeat and kill Ricks, but he seeks to destroy the show itself. He hates the conceit of the little weak guy and the big strong genius guy. He doesn't like the pitch of the show. He understands that every time you participate in this episodic fun little self-contained adventure bullshit, you're just playing into the design of the universe that was built against your will. He becomes a killer and a manipulator and loses all empathy for all Ricks and all Mortys and ceases to give a shit about ethical particulars because all particulars are reflections of the universe Rick's created. All empathy is playing into the game Rick's created, where empathy is systemically punished. Having sentiments within the central finite curve simply reinforces the reality of the central finite curve, which is just a shadow of reality. In actual reality, your sentiments can outrank Rick, but if you live your life within the diorama, you will always be a miniature. A burst of sincerity in a reality that is destined towards ironic detachment by design. A feeble attempt at serialization in an inherently episodic universe. A mortal trapped by a lowercase g god who is just as human and prone to error as you are, but has rigged the game in his favor.
Morty, I'm not responsible for every f***ed up Rick out there.
They literally all say that. It's part of their system.
The evil plot is to break the central finite curve.
Evil Morty is this product of a fucked up system. He realizes this whole thing is bad. It has to burn down. He has to break the central finite curve. He has to break the toxic relationship between Rick and Morty that Mortys have been manufactured into.
In order to do this, he blends the bodies of a million Ricks and Mortys and mixes the blood with vats of portal fluid, shooting a laser that shatters the fabric of reality, prompting from our Morty this apt reaction.
Oh my fucking god!
Yeah, holy shit! This is what Rick's afraid of. This is the result of someone serializing in the Rick and Morty universe.
Morty, the idea was to get back to simple adventures. The Citadel runs on canon.
Our Morty starts like any Morty, pretty dumb, pretty weak, a camouflage for Rick's brain, and a completely disposable partner meant to be used and abused. But since our Rick happens to stand by him for 5 seasons, our Morty becomes a fucking badass. He travels back to the universes Rick has ravaged to fix the havoc-ridden aftermath as a common chore. He disarms neutrino bombs and flies spaceships solo. He fucking slices his hand and gets the most creative kill of the series.
I already got a partner, and there's no room for promotions. Ah!
What the f did you just do?
Cut you out of my life.
Our Morty is becoming a strong, earnest, powerful force in the galaxy, more similar at this point to Evil Morty than that fresh-faced, anxious, weak-willed, little apologetic child we met back in season 1, episode 1. As Evil Morty reveals Rick's backstory, challenges the system rather than any individual, stabs a hole through the central finite curve, and melts the Citadel into nothingness, killing a significant chunk of all Mortys and all Ricks, our Rick is left genuinely relying on his Morty, a massive portion of his godhood destroyed. He's been humbled so many times he appears unable to continue pretending he doesn't need or care about Morty. In the episode prior to the finale, Rick, just to be a dick to Morty because Morty pissed him off, tells him he's fired and then teams up with 2 crows as a way to demean him and show him how replaceable and meaningless he is.
You're just trying to make me feel worthless. I never said you're worthless. In fact, I've given you a very clear metric of your worth. 2 crows.
However, while he's on this petty power trip, he inexplicably learns suddenly the actual meaning of collaboration and trust.
I'm a bad partner because I never made you a true partner. The crows made me see that.
But just because he's experienced that authentically in one particular capacity, it doesn't mean he's actually matured to the point of being able to repair and maintain his relationships. Instead, he uses this newfound wholesomeness as a version of escapism from responsibility yet again. He gives Morty that bullshit from an abuser where they're like, I'm sorry, I have to abandon you for your good.
So we're like, back, right? Rick and Morty. No, Morty, I think we're done. What we had was abusive, so I need to leave with the crows and see what more they can teach me. I'll always be your grandpa, Morty. I'm just kind of obsessed with crows now.
You know, as opposed to, oh, I realized how I was treating you shittily. I'm gonna treat you not shitty now. If you hurt someone's feelings, that's how you get accountable. You don't remove yourself from the situation. You fix yourself. Be better. Speaking from experience. Everyone's capable of mistreating the people they love in their life. Everyone's capable of accountability for that and doing the other thing instead as well. When Rick's 2 crows cheat on him adventuring with somebody else, he comes crawling back to Morty, abandons this new kick of accountability, and is like, let's just do Rick and Morty again.
Wubba-lubba-dub-dub, I'm back, pal.
That lesson of vulnerability and collaboration with a partner doesn't sink into his relationship with Morty until Morty takes him to task for it, reveals his backstory, jumps the shark, takes away his mystery, and then the apparatus of his manufactured godhood is literally crumbling around him.
Rick, did you really leave the crows for me? Or did you come back because they dumped you? There you go, kid. Now you're Evil Morty too.
The writers have really wrung themselves out on Rick's ironic not giving a shit. It's a little less interesting than it was 5 seasons ago. And our Morty has progressed to the point he's a genuine, powerful force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. A real partner. The showrunners have advanced their non-stop fun box beyond the original formula, the meta-analysis and subsequent destruction of that formula being written as the literal plot of the first 5 seasons. Because sometimes fun is episodic, but sometimes it's way more fun to tell a compelling story. So I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do in the future if Evil Morty is the only person to have escaped the central finite curve, or if he's collapsed it across the multiverse. But as far as I'm concerned, seasons 1 through 5 tell the story of Rick and Morty the show, and then that show being destroyed. I kind of got into a passionate ad-lib tangent at the end there, so I don't know how to transition into the next part, but I don't know if I'm known for my clean transitions. Part 6, Follow Your Bliss. I talk a lot of shit about objectivity in art, and I will continue to do so. I prefer critical analysis to common opinion, the caveat I would readily add being that if objective analysis with reliable methods and reference points fails you, then subjectivity will give you more creative reach. Something doesn't necessarily have to live up to anyone's individual codified standards of quality in order to be valuable. I just think it's much more valuable to talk about why something works and how it affects us rather than being like, I like it, it makes me happy. Intuition, analysis, subjectivity, objectivity. What do I believe? Let me just say something I fucking believe. I take art very seriously and it feels dismissive and reductive to declare it's all subjective. No one's in control of quality or excellence, and everyone just likes what they like, and any value only exists in the eye of the beholder. There is craft, there are explanations as to how profound effects are achieved, and you as a fan deserve to understand why you love what you love. Appreciate its goodness beyond your inarticulatable feely wheelies. Yes, the way you receive these eternal, reliable, communicatable forces will be colored by your individual perspective and experience. And it's beautiful. Everyone's the center of their own universe. Blah, blah, fucking blah. But there's more. You can dig deeper. You should dig deeper. Art is a reflection of our desire for meaning in this universe. Maybe you like a review channel to have someone remind you of what you already know and think. Or maybe you like being exposed to other people's just subjective experiences. That's fine. Relying exclusively on objective tools of analysis is not a good way to invent something that's never been done before. It's not a good way to access your imagination. It can make you cunty and elitist. Wait, I can't say that on YouTube. Ah, fuck. What am I talking about? You don't want your analysis to stifle your intuition. You don't want your mortal insecurity to interfere with your participation in godhood. You don't want your intelligence to blind you to wisdom. You don't want your impulse to serialize everything into a string of calculated beauty to harm your ability to simply enjoy something as evergreen and intuitive as art. Your objective tools of analysis are for understanding how your intuition operates at its best. There's something to fall back on when you're lost in the woods and you don't know where to go next.
Our job is to walk through the woods. I use a compass when I do it so that we don't walk in pointless circles and end up only exploring part of the woods. I do not want anyone in this room being like, we have to adhere to this thing, because I do think it's a little oppressive. As soon as it becomes thou shalt, it's like, it is pointless.
They're a method to effectively communicate something and purposefully induce any particular sensation or idea in the mind of the audience. Subjectivity and objectivity are another dialectic to try to accept both extremes of simultaneously, taking the transcendence from each and allowing them to shine in contradiction. As an artist and as a person, you cannot commit wholeheartedly to an extreme forever. You have to be prepared to accept multiple contradictory truths if you want the most out of life. Rick and Morty is a fascinating live study of a creative team navigating these hardcore extremities, drifting from one to the other in whatever direction begets the most joy. Sometimes the joy is wildly uncomfortable. Sometimes it's a little moment of sincerely impactful writing. Sometimes it's an orgasmically fan-servicey sci-fi action scene. Sometimes it's a stupid ending to a meaningless episode. Sometimes it's an incest baby. Okay, listen. In season 5, episode 4, unfortunately titled Rick Pendant Spray, Morty fucks a horse fleshlight. Rick goes to the place that he did it to harvest horse sperm to make a thing, and the result is monster Morty sperm stalking the globe trying to fertilize the largest thing possible. I didn't write it. The sperm traveled to the Grand Canyon because I didn't write it.
Why would the sperm go to the Grand Canyon? You can't be serious. Are we in middle school?
Morty's sister, not knowing that it's Morty's sperm, offers one of her eggs to be enlarged to bait the sperm to a location for a final stand. When Morty can't hide from his shame anymore and must confess his fatherhood to these monsters, the stakes immediately skyrocket to do not let this incest baby happen.
My sperm, it's all mine.
What? Don't let them reach my sister's egg. You'll be making a giant incest baby.
Except for Jerry, whose stakes are, he just got really good at filling up cups of water for the president and is feeling great fulfillment out of it.
Is this water for everyone?
Yes, and I'd love a glass.
Coming up.
At least do something useful, like Jerry.
Right to the top.
We're about to make a giant incest baby.
Oh, well, now we're all in our darkest hour.
Good for him. Our heroes appear to prevail with the assistance of one particularly loyal sperm that seems to have saved the day until the One Ring, it beats him.
Sticky! Fuck!
The incest baby is created and is promptly launched into space, and now he's just up there.
Dear God, no, you can't be real.
Listen, I hate it. Everyone hates it. But I suspect with admiration on principle that the writers hated it too. In fact, I'm basically 100% sure they had this idea, and then as soon as it was spoken, they knew they had no choice. I will now apply Joseph Campbell's philosophy of bliss to the incest baby. Watch me do it with shock and awe and a measure of disappointment. Campbell was a very spiritual person. His investment in Native American mythology, then Eastern religion, and then universally binding spiritual narratives was not made for story structure or television.
The Campbell monomyth thing was never a guide for how to write movies or TV shows. Campbell didn't like movies. He was a Catholic Boy Scout who thought it was cool that Native American stories had a lot of similarity to the gospel.
It was more concerned with the meaning of life and the fabric of reality itself. If Rick has the prototypical unhealthy relationship with the eternal, then Campbell has the best possible relationship with the eternal. Make that a dialectic, or I don't know, keep it on theme. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. One of his very faith-based principles that, of course, he can back up with ancient Sanskrit because he's a fucking asshole, is following your bliss.
Follow your bliss.
Follow your bliss?
Your bliss, where the deep sense of being in form and going where your body and the soul want to go. When you have that feeling, then stay with it. And don't let anyone throw you off.
Your bliss can be your North Star via your objectivity or your subjectivity. Your subjectivity and intuition are always available to you. All they require to thrive is for you to take the yoke of perfectionism off your back. Turn your brain completely off and start creating. Make something awful. Be inspired by Royland's House of Cosbys and just begin without fear or expectation. That is transcendent. Then if you have no idea what to do, if your intuition is not speaking to you, if you are dissatisfied with your flimsy forays into inventing the hitherto unimagined, turn to the massive canon of artistic excellence and craft that lays behind you. This is also transcendent. And at all times, when trying to pick the best parts of each of these dialectics while leaving the worst of them at bay, use your bliss as your guide. These are roads to travel. These are tools to use, patterns to imitate. When you realize you're created in God's image and God created us, so you are also destined to create something out of the nothing. Go where you are needed. Use what you must to manifest the otherworldly beauty into our physical reality. Carefully construct your arrows. Carefully construct your arrow that points at something unspeakable. You've always got extremes and a spectrum between. How you navigate between them, follow that motherfucking bliss.
Always follow your bliss. Find your voice, shout it from the rooftops, and keep doing it until the people that are looking for you find you. Stay put.
This is what the Rick and Morty writers transparently, textually struggle with between serialization and the episodic. They're sitting in a room chasing comedy and meaning and bliss, and they go where they need to go. When they have the idea of the incest baby, and they can't let go of the discomfort and the incredibly visceral stakes of the potential of an incest baby.
Oh, this sucks.
All of the in-universe characters, all of the creators of the show and the audience are deeply invested in hating this concept. It's compelling. This is creativity that makes you feel something. And so they do it passionately. Then for the next few episodes, the characters will not stop bringing it up.
Your kids and their grandpa are asking you to do an activity? When did that stop being a parent's wettest dream?
I guess around the time our family created a giant incest baby.
Oh my God, we made a giant incest baby. You might be a clone. I exist because you guys failed to abort me. We get the family we get, not the one we want.
As you guys recall, and as a lot of people keep bringing up, Morty and I did accidentally create a giant incest baby.
Until a few episodes later, they satisfy this horrible, shitty promise and leave it in the past by revealing Summer has a secret CIA relationship with her incest child, and she names him Naruto, and he saves them from certain destruction.
I was supposed to help discipline him so they could turn him into the ultimate weapon. Instead, I trained him to love. Shit, put that down, Naruto!
Fuck it. Naruto Smith, giant incest space baby extraordinaire. I'm in pain. His Wikipedia page says it is unknown how he is able to breathe in space. An understatement, perhaps. Rick and Morty is gonna last for a long time, and these guys are gonna keep trying to create evergreen, endlessly rewatchable TV while honoring character development and their epic scope. The first 5 seasons made the concept of the show Rick and Morty existing inexplicably the overarching story the characters within the show Rick and Morty are wrestling with. And the climax thus far was the show breaking from its core characterization and central conceit, prospectively sustaining their endless episodic fun by pushing the characters into a new endless space. And you know what other show folds its episodic structure into the DNA of the story? Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir.
In the daytime, I'm Marinette.
For you simultaneously unfortunate and fortunate folks who are not familiar, you're fortunate because you get to watch it now. I'm so excited for you. Marinette Dupen-Chang lives a double life as the superhero Ladybug, keeping her identity secret, saving the city of Paris from villains every week. Ladybug's partner is Cat Noir, a wisecracking goofball working with her to protect the city and also flirting with her with unreciprocated romantic affection. But what Marinette doesn't know is Cat Noir's secret identity is Adrian Agreste, the boy of her dreams that goes to her high school. It's tragic, it's frustrating, they're in love with each other, but they don't know it. And people complain about this episodic conceit, the fact that they won't change this or allow them to fall in love with each other. Motherfucker, these two are not mature enough to love each other. They're in childish love with idealized versions of the other. They need to fall in love with the version that they're not looking for. Taking a shortcut by revealing their identities to each other prematurely would literally end the world due to their indulgence in their personal teenage fantasies. The show teaches us this again and again. We literally see the world end when it occurs, and we have to use time travel mechanics and other reality bending strategies to reset ourselves back to our episodic structure. That lack of progress towards relationship with each other is the point of the show. These two kids have a million lessons to learn before they're mature enough to discover they're in the daily presence of their soulmates. Yes, Marinette is deeply flawed. Yes, she makes mistakes. She can be selfish and immoral because she's a kid. Being perfect is not what makes her canonically on Santa's list as the best girl in the world.
Unbelievable! Ladybug, you are the best behaved kid in the whole world.
Her constant willingness to course correct is. Marinette's Kwame Tiki is a part of Marinette, a representation of the incredible responsibility that this kid has been called into unfairly. Tiki is there to be the constant voice of reason and morality, pulling her away from her selfishness into the impossibly beautiful hero that she's destined to become. And yes, it's unfair. It's too much responsibility to put on the shoulders of a child, but the fact that she can't do it alone is what will eventually rebuild the miraculous guardians in a new generation. One by one, her most trusted friends will be allowed in on the secrets to pick up the slack. Marinette is destined to be a leader not because she's perfect, but because she can take criticism, because she respects friendship and community trust above all. She's wise enough to realize she's imperfect, change, and rely on others to keep her accountable. And at the end of this process, she's going to fall in love with Cat Noir, and Adrian is going to fall in love with Marinette, and they'll finally be ready to know each other's identities. That will be the union of Ladybug's power of creation and restoration, alongside with the opposing power of Cat Noir's destruction and annihilation. They will unite as a force to defend humanity forever. We are progressing towards this conclusion episodically and incrementally, quote me on it. In fact, I just thought up of another dialectic between two unstoppably powerful protagonists with endlessly unfolding powers, but completely different ethical systems. Part 7, Rick Sanchez and Marinette Dupenchang.
I think I'm an addict, want the world and I'ma have it. I'm so fucking dramatic, got all my bones up in the attic, and I dance them all around like a marionette.
Morty, what are you watching? Is this a review channel?
I don't know, Rick. I'm just really liking the new Hawkeye show. I wanted to see what other people thought.
Ugh, Morty, you think this guy is interesting? You think this is valuable? A bunch of people no more qualified than you just telling you their opinion? Like your mom on the way out of the movie theater? You think their feelings matter?
Oh, geez, maybe. I care what people think. It kind of rounds out my opinions, you know?
Morty, if you like the show, watch the show. Don't seek out other amateurs to regurgitate opinions back to you to dilute your personal interpretive and analytical prowess.
But Rick, I really like this guy. I think he's relatable and he's kind of funny.
Being funny doesn't mean you're smart. Don't conflate superficial passive engagement with actual value.
Well, isn't it kind of valuable if it makes me happy?
Not if you're a bottom of the barrel piece of bacteria mindlessly seeking crumbs of comfort. What, you like the Hawk Person show? You like the art? Does this feel like art to you? Does the white man with the green screen background and catchphrases make you feel like you're living a life of significance?
You're drunk.
Come to my garage, you piece of shit. Morty, look at this. Look at this. I made a video about Inside that was longer than Inside and barely about Inside. Do you think you could do that, Morty? Do you think anyone could do that except for me?
Well, I think you make good videos, but I just don't get why you're so mean about what other people do. You know you'd be less stressed about money if you just took a sponsor or two, right?
You think I would for a second reduce the quality of what I produce on behalf of a corporation that doesn't give a shit about what I make? Or my audience, for that matter? You think I'd set that precedent? The second you take corporations' money, you're beholden to them. You have to take notes, Morty. Do I look like I take notes?
Well, I guess not, but it's just how people make money.
Well, I'm not here to make money, Morty. I want power. I want resources. I want to defy corporate profit motive. My ambitions don't plateau at bending over and letting a studio gently fuck me while I thank them for letting me try to create within the parameters.
What does this have to do with sponsorships? Are you even talking about YouTube anymore?
Oh, big money loves us throwing up in each other's mouths. They don't want us to know it's possible to build our own creative industries. They don't want us to be independent. They don't want us to develop a relationship with God through our myths and stories. It's not profitable enough for these lizards.
Look, I don't know what you're talking about anymore. I like Marvel. I like YouTubers. Sue me!
Oh, sure, then your flimsy convictions would seem worthy of debating by merit of my participation. You're not even qualified to disagree with me. We're not even having the same conversation. Your opinions are like the sneezes of a fly. I'm constructing a better world for flies. You know why YouTube shows you your analytics?
So, you know what people like? So you can make better content?
You really believe that, Morty? They show you data that represents how much money you make them. Those numbers represent how profitable your channel is to their automated bottom line. They don't care how well your career's doing. They just want you to feel like you're not doing enough, so you slave away as a loyal employee to a vat of money that it doesn't even know you exist, Morty.
So YouTube is bad?
YouTube's a system, Morty. It's land ownership. They own the market in which we trade.
That just sounds like non-productive anti-capitalist lip service.
Oh, I'm amassing capital, baby. I'm making my own money. I'm ensuring the longevity of my career. I'm establishing a foundational authenticity that's magnetic to the public. I'm gonna have these studios begging at my feet like dogs. I'm only making video essays to pay my rent and build my audience. Then I'm gonna leverage that momentum and capital into doing something I actually give a shit about.
Oh, bullshit! You don't care about YouTube. You spend all day on your stupid videos.
Yeah? Cause I'm not a fucking hack?
Well, maybe stop acting like you're so far above it.
Don't tell me what to do!
I'm not telling you what to do, you're telling me what to do.
I'm telling you the truth, Morty!
Shut up, Rick! You don't know what's best for me. You never ask what I think. You always say you don't like Jordan Peterson, but you sound just like him.
Take that back.
Well, it's true! He talks about myths and meaning and stuff. I've seen his stuff on YouTube. You say the same things as him, just less implicitly transphobic.
That's because of Joseph Campbell.
Jordan Peterson.
Campbell.
Peterson!
When you are a child, when you are young and a young person, you are a camel.